Sup guys, it's Kiki, and it's another 100 Days of Making Comics video. This challenge was created by Kevin Cross here on the YouTubes. Link to his channel, his first foray into the challenge, and to the Facebook group for this challenge in the description below. Essentially, this challenge is for 100 days consecutively. You work every day at a minimum of 30 minutes that day on your personal comic projects, and then you make a social media post of some kind. Originally, it was supposed to be a YouTube video, but you can pretty much use any kind of social media to post what you've been working on that day, what you're doing, keep you honest. I do videos. Now that spiel's over, let's talk about what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm drawing, as you can see. Essentially, I had said, I believe in yesterday's video, maybe the day before, the paper or the sketchbook that I use, I said it was crappy paper. It's not really crappy paper. It's just not really good for markers. The paper, it also doesn't do really that well with inks either. The paper has a lot of tooth to it, and it makes the lines kind of sketchy. Also, it sucks up everything like a frickin' sponge, and so it dulls the colors of the markers, and it also I have problems with bleeding, and so I wanted to do some Bristol tests, and so I did two, well, you'll see on this video, two sketches of myself, my character in the comic, testing out a few things. There was actually more sketches than this, but I cut them out because I did not finish them and threw them away because the drawing was kind of crap, and instead of erasing it or trying to fix it, I just threw it against the wall and started over. So, yeah, I'm getting a little discouraged, not about creating the comic itself, but how I'm going to be executing it. I'd said probably I think it was in video 5 or something, how I'm not a big fan of digital work, but that's a lot of what I did, with the exception of one comic. All my past comics were drawn and inked traditionally and colored digitally. I had one comic called Kikki many years ago that was drawn, everything traditionally, was colored with colored pencils, but it was super expensive for me to keep up with that, and because I was real stickler about using Prismacolors, and I didn't like where you could see the pencil line, so everything was burnished and lots of saturation of color, and I went through colored pencils like crazy, and that's one of the things that's prevented me from doing anything but digital coloring for a while, was just the cost. I'm sure, I could definitely use cheaper things, but I'm a little bit of a snob sometimes when it comes to supplies. So I want to do this traditionally. I'm worried about how much product I'm using. I'm worried about how much it's going to cost to do it. And I'm getting a little frustrated. And part of me wants to just scrap the whole coloring traditionally and do it digitally. But I think I'm going to push myself to at least get to the point where I'm doing test panels and seeing if I can find a way to do it that makes me a little more comfortable with the amount of product that's being used, if that makes any sense at all. But I digress. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, I talked about how I wanted to have a topic for these videos. I completely failed. I haven't thought of any topics to talk about. I have a list set up to list topics. I didn't do that today. I read instead. But one thing I did want to say is yesterday, when I was talking about diversity, and I had said that a previous comic of mine had gotten listed on tvtropes.org, I used the Wayback Machine, because it's no longer there now, but I did use the Wayback Machine to actually find the listing, and I just wanted to read what it said. It's on the unfortunate implications part of the wiki, and it was back in 2011, I think. Let me look at the date. 2010, pardon me. In August of 2010 is where I found it. And here's what it says. Of Snakes and Apples is based on the biblical creation story. Lilith, her mate Samyaza, and two angels that show up, Adam and God, are white. Only the ignorant and naive Eve who has been, pardon me, created for the benefit of Adam is black, but not too black, what with the white hair. So yeah, that is and it was really funny is when I first saw that, I was so offended. And I was just like, first of all, she's not black. She's supposed to be Indian. Or like that coloring anyway. And I was like, technically, not everybody else is white. But I kind of took pause and was like, okay, why am I getting so offended by this? And I think it was because it wasn't my intention to be offensive. But it's, with maturity, I realized that intention's not always the most important thing in the situation. And what's really funny is I had absolutely no intention of Eve in that story of ever being a person of color. Like, the only reason she looked the way she did is because I designed Lilith first. Because Lilith is one of my favorite characters in the biblical creation story. Well, not biblical, but the Judeo-Christian. It's actually, Lilith is a Jewish myth from I'm half asleep, so I think she's mostly in Jewish stories. Anyway, I wanted to just, cause she's supposed to be this character that is all sexuality and beauty, and so I designed her to be what I would consider like extremely beautiful, just as a personal thing. And so she was really tall, and she was pale, and she had long dark hair. And then I wanted Eve to not only be physically, personality-wise be the opposite of her, to physically be the opposite. So she had dark skin and light hair. And she was curvy and much shorter. And, yeah. That's the only reason she looked the way she did. Yeah, I no longer make those, do stuff like that when creating characters. But anyway, I'm going to have better topics in, future videos. Day 20 is a wrap. On to tomorrow and day 21. So I will see you guys then. Later.